Earl Simmons was born in Mount Vernon, New York on December 18, 1970. His mother would take on the responsibility of raising him and his siblings on her own, as Earl's dad cut off all communication when he was born. This left him to be raised alone by his mother along with his 4 sisters in their 1-bedroom apartment. In his words, he stated she was incapable of looking after him. This was the start of his adolescent years that would turn out to be far from average. He spent his childhood mostly in Yonkers, a city just north of the Bronx. He suffered greatly from asthma and would take trips to the emergency room almost every night due to waking up unable to breathe. Things didn't improve over the years, and his frustration only built up more over time. He often found himself getting into fights, inevitably getting kicked out of different schools. A lot of this trauma came from his living conditions at home. He was often beat by his mother and her various boyfriends. In some cases, he was beaten so badly his teeth fell out, and he suffered bruises and cuts all over his face. After being kicked out of school in the 5th grade, he was sent to a children's home for 18 months, in hopes it would help him out. But it didn't help, and he never finished his 18th-month stay, because he was kicked out after he and a roommate started a fire. When he returned home, the abuse from his mom only continued, and his dad was still absent, only coming to New York when he happened to be in the area selling art. At 10 years old, he was once again expelled from school after throwing chairs at his teachers. He was arrested twice for arson and assault. This is when he turned to the streets for answers. He began running away from home and would sleep in the Salvation Army clothing bins at night. The only comfort he found in the dark times were the stray dogs he met on the streets of Yonkers. While on the streets, he was introduced to hard drugs from people he thought were trustworthy. He often smoked weed that was laced with crack cocaine unknowingly. But shortly after he began doing this, his mother found him and sent him to another boys' home. Although being in a boys' home wasn't the answer he needed at the time, it was an impactful experience and would set his life in a different direction.
She told him she just wanted to visit a place. And they get there and it was kind of suburban and lots of grass. She says, "Earl, do you like it?" He's like, "Yeah, I kind of like it. This is cool." And she says, "Well, great, because you're not coming home."
While he was staying there, he started bonding with the other kids over their love for hip-hop music. After freestyling to them, they encouraged him to continue writing music and told him he had a lot of potential. This gave Earl the little bit of motivation he needed and helped him discover the career he was ready to pursue, giving his life meaning. When he finished his stay, he returned home and began meeting other local rappers. One of the rappers he met was Reddy Ron, and he was impressed with how well Earl could beatbox. Reddy Ron asked him to partner up with him, and Earl birthed the name we know today, DMX. He got inspiration for his name from the Oberheim DMX drum machine he had been playing around with at the boys' home. He later also interpreted it as Darkman X. Although things were finally starting to look up as far as a direction in life, DMX still found himself in and out of trouble with the law, causing him to serve prison time. These crimes went from carjacking to stealing dogs from a junkyard. He and his cellmate managed to escape, but when he returned home, his mother forced him to turn himself in and finish the 2-year sentence. If anything, this only motivated him to go harder when he was released the summer of 1988, and he did. He started rapping over instrumentals from other songs and putting them on mixtapes that he would sell on the street corners. After a couple years, he began to gain a small fan base, locally as well as deeper into New York. This helped him get recognized by a few magazines who published articles about him and his potential. When labels caught wind of the buzz he now had, he started getting offers until settling down with Columbia Records label, Rough House. He released his debut single, Born Loser, and things started to change. He didn't drop another single for over a year until releasing Make a Move in 1994, which was successful. He spent the next couple years building his brand and collabing with other artists like Jay-Z, Ja Rule, and LL Cool J. He ended up leaving Columbia Records for somewhat unknown reasons, but we know he was unhappy. He joined forces with Def Jam, who would produce his debut album. The fans had been patiently waiting on new music.
It was work, dog. You know what I'm saying? Everything we doing is coming. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere we went, you know what I'm saying? We had to pay for it if we wanted to get there. You know, then pay to get in, and you know what I'm saying? It was mad work, and then struggle, and yo, listen to the check this out. You know what I'm saying?
It's Dark and Hell is Hot was released on May 12, 1998. It included songs like Get At Me Dog and Rough Riders Anthem. The album went #1, and it sold over 5 million copies, shattering expectations and commercializing DMX's name. In that same year, he released his second album, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, once again going #1 and multi-platinum. He was gaining worldwide success and becoming one of the biggest artists of the time. He kept the momentum going all the way into 1999, and he released And Then There Was X, which included his first ever top 10 song, Party Up. This is also the year he would settle down and get married to his wife, Tashira Simmons. It was also the beginning of his decade-long beef with Ja Rule, after he felt DMX's voice was too similar to his.
I never had beef. If I had beef with Ja Rule, man, there wouldn't be a Ja Rule. You know what I mean? I never had beef with the boy. You know what I'm saying? He got out of line. But, you know, that's my boy. What you gonna do? You know, you can't kill your son. You know what I'm saying?
At the turn of the century, things only seemed to be getting better and better for DMX, and he was even starting to break out into Hollywood as an actor with a number of movies. His fourth and fifth albums, The Great Depression and Grand Champ, would both go #1, making him the first artist in history to have 5 back-to-back albums do this. In addition, his singles Where the Hood At and Get It on the Floor were doing big numbers. For someone who had so much to celebrate, he still struggled to leave his past life. By 2004, his sales numbers began to slowly decline, and his list of drug and legal-related issues got longer. These charges included animal cruelty, possession of drugs, assault on a prison guard, menacing, driving without a license, and carjacking. In addition, he was having problems in his marriage, where he and Tashira had 4 kids, but DMX was fathering an additional 10 kids from other women. This would snowball into more problems such as child support and back payments. He tried to return to music in 2006 by releasing The Year of the Dog, this time under Columbia Records after Jay-Z helped him get out of a $12 million debt with Def Jam. But his music would only sell a fraction of the sales his previous projects sold. His career and personal life were starting to fall apart, and his battle with drug use only got worse over the years because of this. In 2010, Tashira would file for a divorce. While this is happening, DMX would film a show documenting his road to recovery and getting his life back on track. Unfortunately, he would relapse just weeks after filming, and the show was never premiered, despite him wanting to change for the better. He continued to release music under various labels throughout the coming years, but he was struggling to win over a new generation of listeners who may not have known about his history. He continued to strive for a healthier life and began working on his 8th studio album. He also went on a world tour in Bulgaria and Serbia. Redemption of the Beast was released on January 13, 2015, and it was his last album released to date. In 2016, DMX and his girlfriend gave birth to his 15th child.
Today is the 6th day rapper DMX remains on life support at White Plains Hospital.
He's in grave condition since reportedly suffering a heart attack and drug overdose last Friday.
On Saturday, April 3rd, it was made public that DMX had overdosed in his New York home, which triggered a heart attack. He suffered brain and lung failure, with no brain activity for 6 days before passing away on April 9, 2021. He was only 50 years old. Despite having a traumatic upbringing, DMX managed to make a way for himself and write an impactful chapter in the hip-hop history books. With decades of art and stories told, his legacy will live on with his music.